All right, hi, I'm Chef Chad. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be making bread. I'm going to do a few different bread videos, but this first one I'm going to do is called pain de glace. I saw it online on the King Arthur Flour baking website, and I thought there's no way that this would work. It's 100% hydration. If you don't know what hydration means in a bread dough, it's the percent of liquid based on the amount of flour. So a lot of sourdoughs are 60% hydration. Some pizza doughs I've seen go up to 70% hydration, which means if you have 100 grams of flour, you have 70 grams of water. But this is 400 grams of flour, 400 grams of water, so equal amounts by weight. So I've got my scale out here. I've got it set to grams, because that's how most baking recipes are set. And this, if I recall correctly, is about a little more than 2 cups. So it's about 2.5 cups to get to 400 grams. I'm getting as close as I can there. Oh, maybe 2.5 cups. Okay. So this scale isn't real exact. It says 403, but it's close enough that it's not going to matter. And I've got my 400 grams of water right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that in there, get my scale out from underneath, and I'm going to mix it up. So far, this bread is a real complicated recipe: flour and water. I think it's paper mache if you were to make it thinner, or whitewash. Anyway, this is a very, very loose dough, and you think there's no way this is going to turn into bread. But my kids all agreed that this was some of the best bread they've ever had. Now, they don't do this on the video, but I also make sourdough. I use Ken Forkish's flour, water, salt, yeast. So I'm going to use just a little bit of my Levain sourdough starter that I have, and it's about 100 grams. So this is not necessary. It's not in the King Arthur flour recipe, but what it does do is it gives you a little bit more bready flavor. You know, that's a little bit of an aged dough there, so you get a little bit more of that yeasty flavor. So also, he doesn't do this on the King Arthur video. I didn't see it, at least. I'm going to let this hydrolyze, which is just going to let that water and flour kind of absorb a little bit more, so the water will fully get absorbed. Then I'm going to come back in about 15 minutes, and I'm going to add salt, and I'm going to add some yeast, and then from there, we're going to start the folding process. So we'll do the first folds after we mix those, and so I'm going to pause right now, and we'll be back. All right, it's been about 15 minutes, so this has just been sitting here. I haven't done anything to it. And I'm going to add about a tablespoon of salt. This is a ½ tablespoon measurement, so a tablespoon of salt. Sprinkle that over the top. And then I've got a teaspoon here, and I'm going to put a teaspoon of dry yeast. So just sprinkle that over the top. And then I'm going to give this a good mix. Again, I know I keep mentioning his name, but Ken Forkish, in his flour, water, salt, yeast book, mentions the best way to mix it is to do this pincher method. So kind of fold everything over, get your hands gloopy, kind of pinch through it, pinch this way again, fold it over again, pinch through the middle, pinch through both sides, pinch this way. And you're gonna get that pretty well mixed up. Now we're gonna do a lot of folds on this dough. So now that is pretty well mixed, I've got this casserole pan. It's kind of a rectangle shape, which is the reason I chose it. It's the reason that they do on the King Arthur page. And I'm gonna take this dough and I'm just gonna put it in there. And again, if you've ever seen bread dough frozen or otherwise from the store, you'll notice that does not look anything like the dough that you get at the store. So I'm gonna do one fold now, and then we'll come back every half hour or so and do more. So like this, and then you fold it back on itself, and then you lift it up, fold it back on itself. So it's still falling apart. I can go the other way, fold it back on itself. And I'm gonna let it sit there. There was a little bit of olive oil in the pan, so that's kind of keeping it from sticking too much to the pan. So we're gonna let that sit for about a half hour, and we'll come back. I'll probably do the next few turns in fast forward mode. There's not much to say. You'll just see me do it. And after a couple hours, we're gonna let it sit, and we're gonna bake it at a very high temperature, and we'll go from there. So I'll see you later.
Right, this is the pain de glace dough. I almost want to call it a batter because it is so loose. So I've got this pan with some olive oil in it, and all you do with this is just every so often you kind of pick it up, fold it back. First couple times it is going to break, You can fold it again. And then you can turn it sideways, fold it. As that gluten starts to develop, it will start to hold together. So I'm gonna let this sit for another 15, 20 minutes or so, and I'll come back and fold it again. And you'll see how the dough slowly comes together. We'll probably do about 4 folds total before we cut it and then get ready to bake it. Here we are again. I'm gonna do the second fold. So again, I'm just gonna kind of push it away from the edges, lift it up, and now it's holding together a little bit better than it did before. So I can just kind of fold it over one more time, and then I'll go this way, and again. Still quite sticky, and it will be quite sticky just because it's got so much water in it, but you can see it's starting to shape up into something more resembling bread dough. So I'll be back again shortly, and we'll do this 2 more times. Here is our third folding. I get some of that oil on my fingers. It's a little sticky still. So now we're gonna lift it up, fold it over, lift it up, and then go the other way. And it's starting to hold up a little bit more. Try to get some of that oil around the outside of the pan. And another 20 minutes, we'll do 1 more, and then we'll cut it into loaves. So, we'll be back 1 more time. All right, this is the 4th time I'm going to be doing this. So, it's not quite as sticky as it was, but it's still a very sticky bread dough. And it's gotten some nice gluten development over the folding that we've done. So, what I'm going to do now is try to get a little oil on it. And then I'm going to let this rise over here on this parchment paper. That'll probably take another, I don't know, half hour or so. And then I'm going to cut it into 4 pieces. I got this on an upside down baking sheet so that I can slide that directly onto the baking stones in my oven. So once this is, like I said, raised a little bit, I'm going to cut it. We'll let it raise a little bit more, and then it'll go into a 500 or 450 degree oven. And that oven is very hot, so that the gas bubbles that are trapped in here that are being developed because of the yeast are all going to expand very fast in that hot. As the air expands, it's going to give it this very, very light bread. So I'm excited to show this to you.
All right, here we are, another step with the bread. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this in half, this way and this way. Then, using your hands gently, I'm going to pull these 4 pieces away from each other so that they will cook as 4 separate little loaves, almost like individual ciabatta. And you can use the knife to get those separated. They will come back together a little bit as they rise, but that's okay. It is sticking to the parchment paper. Again, that's okay. When it cooks, it will slide right off of that. Trust me, I've done this before. So this one here, this one here, just pull down, pull this one down here. They don't look real pretty, but once they rise again, trust me, these are going to be gorgeous pain de glace, or glass bread as they called it. And we'll be back in a little while to throw them in the oven, and you'll see the finished product. All right, and now we are ready to put the pain de glace into the oven. Like I said, it's at 450 degrees. I've got some baking stones in there, so I'm just going to slide this parchment paper, mostly, right onto those. I'm going to close it. In about 15 minutes, I am going to take the paper out from underneath because it will burn at 450 degrees. And but the bread needs about 30 minutes total, so I'll be back when it comes out. Okay, and here we are back. I just pulled these out of the oven. They are steaming hot. However, I'm going to use a towel, and I'm going to cut one open so you can see what we've created. And you can hear crispity crunchy of that crust that is very good because it's cooked at such a high temperature. There's these gorgeous large bubbles in there. And most of these I will let continue to cool before I cut them up. I just wanted you to see this because those giant bubbles add color, flavor, lots of different shapes in there. And we found that if you cut this in half this way, each one of these will make 2 great sandwiches. You can fill them with whatever you want, vegetables, meats, cheeses, and they're just fantastic. Head on over to chefchad.net, and I may have a sandwich on there that I'll talk about this a little bit more in depth. But thank you for coming to my kitchen. Get in the kitchen and cook something.